Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Tech Bytes. I'm your host, Kevin Scouten, here to talk to you today about creativity versus completion. Now, creativity versus completion is a discussion that's been ongoing in education for years. We've been looking at ways to create lessons for students, projects for students that foster critical thinking, creativity, and content production, as opposed to creating assignments for students that merely require them to regurgitate knowledge. And so it really comes down to, what is it we want our kids to do? Do we want our kids to be able to just acquire knowledge and then complete assignments for the purpose of earning grades and just spitting back that knowledge that they have acquired? And we know in education that that knowledge doesn't stick unless the students do something with the knowledge. So as opposed to just having our students complete things and then assessing whether or not they've acquired the knowledge that we hoped that they had acquired, do we really want to take the next step and look at ways that we can create assignments for our students that require them to think for themselves, apply the knowledge that they've gained, and create something? And true technology integration drives this switch from completion to creation. There are so many technology tools that are available to us as educators that help us to create lessons that require our students to not only just acquire knowledge, but use that knowledge to create something. Now, if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs as well as Bloom's taxonomy, we can really see that creation sits at the top of both of those. So the very top of Maslow is self-actualization, and the top levels of Bloom's include analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So those we know are the kind of the goal where we want to get to with lesson design, so that our students are creating something, they're using their knowledge, they're thinking in such a way that they need to create new content rather than just regurgitating things that they have learned. We also know that the skills that our students are being required to acquire for moving into high school, college, and beyond are critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, not necessarily just being able to spit back something that they've learned. And so as we look at all of those things together, we really need to be looking at ways that we can create assignments, create projects, create things for our students to do that require them to bump up to the top levels and critically think and problem solve. Now, recently, there's been a lot of discussion about artificial intelligence and how this is going to connect to education. And these discussions have really pushed to the forefront the whole idea that we need our students to be more creative and not just spit back information. And I truly believe that we are at a turning point in education. This is not something that we've seen before. At least those of us who've been in education fairly recently, as I mentioned in a video that I did a few weeks ago, the way that things like ChatGPT will change education are very similar to the way that the calculator changed math instruction. And so for those of us who are maybe a little bit younger and have been using calculators since forever, this is probably the first time that we've seen something come into play that's going to really change education, and it needs to. So like it or not, AI is going to change the way we teach, and I believe it's going to change it for the better. It will enforce us to re-examine our objectives and what it is we want our kids to do. If we want our kids to complete things, yes, ChatGPT can do that. If we want our kids to create and use their own knowledge to generate new ideas, ChatGPT can't do that. Not yet. One of the conversations that I've seen a lot in educational circles, on social media, is a conversation all about cheating and plagiarism. So when we look at tools like ChatGPT, the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, is this cheating? Is this plagiarism? And one of the questions that I've had quite a bit lately is, okay, what tool can I use to make sure that our kids aren't using ChatGPT to answer their questions. And I truly think that's the wrong question. The question is not what tool can we stop our kids from using in order to create answers to questions using ChatGPT. The question in my mind is, what are the questions that we're asking? And if we're asking a question that can be answered by something like ChatGPT, maybe we're asking the wrong kinds of questions. ChatGPT can generate text. It can answer the question, can you define solar energy? Or can you explain how to solve compound fractions? Or can you summarize or analyze a novel? I recently, just for the fun of it, I put into ChatGPT, I put in just simply the statement, analyze The Great Gatsby. And ChatGPT wrote a very good analysis of the plot and the writing style of The Great Gatsby. Now, what ChatGPT can't do is access my personal experiences, access my soul, access my heart. And so can it create a summary? For sure it can, absolutely. But it can't use my own personal experience and how I feel to generate a response to something like The Great Gatsby that's very personal. And so that's why I say maybe we need to look at the questions that we're asking. If we want our students to answer the question, who was Frederick Douglass? ChatGPT can do that. And it's no different really than typing in who's Frederick Douglass into a Google search and copying and pasting that information into an answer form, either on paper or electronically. And so why are we really asking kids questions like that? If we're asking them to just acquire the knowledge, then great. ChatGPT then becomes a very useful teaching tool, because we can ask our students to fire up ChatGPT and ask it the question, and we get the knowledge. What we don't get is any kind of connection to our students or any kind of creation from our students through a tool like that. So as we're looking at things like AI assisted writing like ChatGPT, we can really start to look at that as a teaching tool, not something that we have to worry about our students using to cheat on assignments. So how can we use ChatGPT with our students? Well, one of the things that I've seen recently is that a teacher fed ChatGPT a rubric and said, use this rubric to analyze student work. And then the teacher was able to feed into ChatGPT some student work, and the program actually used the rubric to analyze the response. And so, again, it doesn't have the teacher's personal heart attached to it. ChatGPT is not really able to analyze the student's perspective, but ChatGPT can look at a rubric and tell you whether or not the response matches the rubric. Another example of what you can do with something like ChatGPT, another example that I saw recently that a teacher had done, they asked ChatGPT to analyze a poem, kind of like what I said earlier about having ChatGPT analyze The Great Gatsby. They put in a poem, I don't recall what the poem was, but asked the students then to generate their analysis of the poem, and then they compared the two. The teacher had the student look at the ChatGPT response compared to their own response and look for similarities and differences in the way that the program analyzed the poem versus the way that they analyzed the poem. So it can be a very valuable tool. It can also be something that can help with the anxiety that's caused by the flashing cursor. I don't know if this is something that you are aware of, but there's been a lot of research done on the anxiety that is caused by opening up a blank document and watching the cursor flash. Some students and some adults really just don't know where to start. Starting something is sometimes the most difficult part. Even for me, when I create these videos, when I hit record, that first little piece of information that comes out of me to begin the video is the most difficult part. Once it gets rolling, like it is now, I'm not at a loss for words. I'm not struggling to come up with what I want to say next, but that start is difficult. And so why not use something like ChatGPT to help kids get their start? So again, I could type into ChatGPT, who was Michael Jordan, and it's going to give me some text. It's going to give me something to start with. And I can then take that information and use it to create what I want to create. It gets us past that anxiety of the flashing cursor, which is something else to really think about. So as you are designing lessons moving forward, I really, really encourage you to start looking at ways to generate assignments and projects for kids that require them to analyze their knowledge that they've gained and use that knowledge to create something, rather than just simply using that knowledge to spit back onto a worksheet or a quiz or a test so that they can earn some points for remembering something. Um, so as you're going forward, I also have gotten a lot of feedback on Curipod. And there's a lot more that Curipod can do that I didn't include in my first video because I was new to it. And I've learned quite a bit recently about what Curipod can do. If you have not had a chance to watch the Curipod video, I'll put the link in so that you can take a look at that one. But again, what an amazing tool, but it's not a tool that generates a finished product. It's a tool that generates a start. So you can put in a topic like compound sentences, and Curipod will create an interactive set of slides that is about compound sentences. And then you can take that information, you can take that AI generated lesson, modify it, put your own heart and soul into it. You can change the pictures, you can change the types of questions, you can add information, you could take information away, and you could create a lesson that was begun with some AI information, but then you take that information and use it to create something of your own. So again, as we look at these tools, rather than being afraid of them, rather than being looking at them like, okay, how can I stop my kids from using this? Are my kids going to use this program to cheat on assignments or to plagiarize? Let's really look at how we can use these tools and incorporate them into our instruction in such a way that they're giving our students a leg up. They're giving our students an opportunity to really create and not get stuck on having to remember something or having to just regurgitate information. Let's look at how we can encourage our students to create. And as I said to start with, technology integration, true technology integration in your classroom can really drive this change from just spitting back things that they've learned to generating new information. As you can tell, based on the videos that I've been doing lately, I am definitely super interested in podcasting, creating video, and I would absolutely love to help your students do this. I've been working to create a space that students can use to generate podcasts and video, and I would absolutely love to work with your students and take them up, beyond just filling in answers on a worksheet to creating. If this is something that you would like to work with me on, please reach out, and I will be happy to help. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to working with you.